Hello there beautiful, how are you doing today? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion, which releases on the 13th of December for all major platforms, and I'm here today to bring you a good look at what to expect from this eye-opening remaster, if we can even call it that. I mean, look at it, and to give you a review and my thoughts on the game as I've played through it already, courtesy of Square Enix, and a massive thank you goes out to you for gifting me an early code of the game so that I can share my thoughts with you all. So if you'd like to know more about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started, don't forget to check out all of my social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. You can find me streaming all the time over on Twitch, streaming all sorts of Final Fantasy titles, RPGs, fighting games, all sorts of different things, so by all means come along and come and ask me questions about Crisis Core or any other games you want to talk about over on there, and hit that follow button. Thank you ever so much for doing that so in advance, and of course over on Patreon I do always shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, and today that person is going to be Wuton, who has been a supporter of mine for a really long time and actually has Cloud as their title card, so a massive thank you goes out to you for all of my patrons, as without you guys I wouldn't be able to do what I do, so thank you all very very much. And if you would like a title card just like Wuton has, as well as a plethora of other benefits, and perhaps you'd like to consider taking a look at my Patreon yourself. Now, you might notice that I sound a bit off kilter today. I am rather ill and have been for the past week, but one of the perks of being, trained as a makeup artist is I can at least look like I'm not half dead, even if I feel that way, so do bear with my voice and we'll get on with the review. Now, the first thing that we have to talk about when it comes to Crisis Core Reunion is how it looks and how it is presented. Crisis Core Reunion is gorgeous, considering that it was built from a PSP game. A PSP game! It's not quite up to par with Final Fantasy VII Remake Splendor, but then let's face it, what is? And there's a lot of, a little bit rather, of disparity between the characters lip syncing and stuff, but calling this a remaster almost feels like an insult to this game, because it has been built up from the ground all the way up to where it is now. The amount of work that's gone into the character models, the environments, the attacks and the particle effects, the summon animations, the fact that the game now has full voice acting is jaw-dropping. It is rare with any kind of remaster to say that to somebody who's already played the game in its original incarnation back on the PSP, like myself, that they'd get a brand new experience with its remaster, but with Crisis Core Reunion, that is 100% accurate. So before we start talking about the gameplay changes, I want to reiterate the fact that I am a huge Final Fantasy fan. Therefore, I've played everything within the compilation of Final Fantasy VII Remake, including the original Crisis Core, so playing Reunion felt like a return to form for me, but I was also somebody that didn't love Crisis Core in its first iteration because of the way that some of the characters are presented, and I'm a massive Sephiroth fan, so in terms of the story, I find Crisis Core can be a little bit preachy at times, and honestly I could do without seeing black and white feathers like confetti every 5 seconds. But the central story around Zack is very strong, and the end few chapters will absolutely have you reaching for the tissues all over again, even if you've played the original Crisis Core like I have. Now, I still feel that Sephiroth is a character who drew greatly from the mystery that surrounded him in the original Final Fantasy VII, and so there was always this danger for me of diluting his character by delving so heavily into his past. Think if Joker were given a true origin story, it would kind of ruin his character a little bit. That's always how I felt about Sephiroth and, other Final Fantasy villains like Kefka. Can you imagine Kefka with an origin story? But I know that that's very much a me thing, and a lot of people really love the story that's been presented by Crisis Core, so that's very, very much up to personal taste. I do also feel that Genesis is likely the weakest villain in all of Final Fantasy VII's outings, and that would be mostly due to his one-note approach to his actions and the fact that he spends the entire game gushing about Loveless, a play that realistically none of us really even thought about until Genesis. But like I said, there are tons of people who love that aspect of the story, and to counteract that, Zack's story is very strong. His kind of juxtaposition with Aerith, his juxtaposition with Sephiroth, really strong. And with regards to the character himself, he's just so goddamn likable. It's hard to argue with the army of fans that he has, and honestly, it'll be interesting to see how things progress from here, given that the story in Crisis Core Reunion is completely unchanged from the original Crisis Core, and given some of the developments that we've had set by Final Fantasy VII Remake, the future's going to look very interesting. So going back to things that I'm gushing over with Reunion again, the difference in the combat gameplay from the original to Reunion is genuinely staggering. Between the visual updates and these changes, players who've never played Crisis Core before could easily be forgiven for not knowing that this was a remaster at all, but an entirely new game spun off from Final Fantasy VII Remake rather than the original. Everything Zack can do is now just a button combination away, as opposed to scrolling through menus like we had to do on the PSP, and the changes to the DMW, or Digital Mind Wave, which is a slot machine system that would interrupt your play with a passive effect, limit break, or summon, like periodically throughout any given fight, and was honestly kind of annoying in the original PSP version, is now much nicer by allowing you to stock the attack or ability that you gain from it to use at any point in the current fight, rather than it just go modulating phase and then suddenly you get interrupted, and it was genuinely really irritating. The materia fusion mechanics also make a return here, making for a lovely time customizing Zack's attacks to suit your needs. Now, I would say that I'd be sad about the fact that there aren't playable characters in this game outside of Zack, but it's something I knew going into playing this and having played the original, and honestly I never felt that I needed to play anybody other than Zack. Now, there are brief glimpses, despite the major visual overhaul, where we are reminded of this game's origin as a portable title, largely down to the ways in which the game's missions are largely broken up into smaller corridors or outdoor areas, separated by brief loading screens, and Zack's basic attack animations being somewhat few in number. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. This game is also being released on Nintendo Switch, and I played this on Steam, and therefore tried it out on my Steam Deck, and it ran absolutely beautifully on that as well. So you can still have that portable experience, but just bear that in mind if you're playing this on PlayStation or a home console. So this game actually, because of that, isn't as long as the likes of Remake or other Final Fantasy games, but I actually really enjoy that about Crisis Core Reunion. I think the ability to tell a story like Zack's in a shorter number of hours, while still having the emotional payoff that it does, is actually a very impressive feat by my standards, and if anything, I'd have liked to have seen more about Zack's interactions with characters like Yuffie, Cloud, Aerith, etc., and less about Genesis bleating on about Loveless once again. Now, the core game isn't without its issues either. The side missions in this game are many, but they do all largely boil down to the same thing: get through corridor, kill large enemy. So be prepared to fight some of the bosses that you fight in the game a fair amount. But the core gameplay is snappy and fun enough, and the missions are short enough, it was originally meant as a portable title after all, that none of this bothered me just playing through the game. And yeah, alright, there might be a slight element of bias here, but I just had a lot of fun playing through these missions each and every time. So, let's ask the big question for those of you who are on the fence here. Should you play Crisis Core Reunion? Now, if you followed Final Fantasy VII in any way, shape or form, absolutely. Am I biased? Maybe a little bit. I am a massive Final Fantasy nutjob. But then I imagine I'm not alone in that camp, because otherwise you probably wouldn't be watching this video. However, I will say that Crisis Core Reunion is a really great game, regardless of what experience you have had with FF7. Whether you're coming into it having already played the original Crisis Core, you've got a brand new experience and a way to re-experience a game that a lot of us really enjoyed, and even some of us didn't, in a way that makes it feel fresh and new. I will not stop gushing about how well this game holds up to modern standards, given that it's a remaster of a PSP game. It's staggering. Or if you've played FF7 Remake and none of the others, and you kind of want to know what was going on with the ending of FF7 Remake, great place for you to go. You could even play this as your first FF7 experience and get the backstory before going into Remake, and that way you kind of go in with a different set of eyes. I don't think that there is any kind of demographic who's even interested in Final Fantasy VII that I wouldn't recommend for, like, Crisis Core Reunion 2. I really do think it was that good. And if you want to see just how big a difference there is between this and the original, and it is huge, then go ahead and give it a go. Just be prepared for some heartache either way. Those of you who have played Crisis Core will know what I'm talking about. Honestly, what Square Enix has done with Crisis Core and Reunion is truly impressive and completely redefines the idea of what a remaster should look like. Other games companies are going to be absolutely quaking after seeing this and seeing that it can truly be done with a remaster. Yes, you should play this. So that's going to be all for today's video on Crisis Core Reunion. Let me know what you think in the comments below, either of this video or of the game itself, whether you were planning on getting it, or you perhaps were on the fence about it and this video has helped you to make a decision one way or the other. Once again, a huge thank you goes out to Square Enix for gifting me an early copy of the game so that I can share my thoughts with you all. It means so much to me that the company I've looked up to for so long, have worked for, has been a part of my life since I was very, very young, still continues to believe in me as a creator, and it is extremely humbling. So a massive thank you goes out to Square Enix for this particular opportunity, and a big thank you to you for watching as well. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications and all that stuff that YouTubers tell you to do. And I do apologise if there is a bit of raspiness in my voice. It is not a regular occurrence. I hope to improve over the course of the next week or so, but thank you ever so much for watching regardless, and I hope to see you next time, beautiful. Hope you have a lovely day. See you later.